Hey guys, so we are going to be using this create message function and putting it inside of our website right here. So that way I can actually create a message from this page and see the chat. So we're going to take this guy and put it in the controller and make it callable. So I'm over here in the controller package. I'm going to create a new folder called create message. And inside of that, I'm going to say index.tsx. And now I'm thinking we could do it the exact same way we did create listing, where we actually created a higher order component, and that would work great in this scenario. But I thought I haven't showed you guys the mutation component, so let's try that out. So we're going to do a similar thing to how we did the view messages over here, but instead of a query, we're going to do a mutation. So I'm going to copy this here, and we're going to paste it in, and we're just going to replace this what it looks like for a mutation. So we don't need that. We're going to need the mutation from React Apollo. And here I'm going to say create message mutation. And let's paste in our query, or I guess in this case the mutation. So here I'm going to add a name for it. So create message mutation. And it's going to take one variable, a message, which is a message input, and that's a required field. And here I don't need to have all this stuff in here. I can just say, or assign it to the variable message. So message is going to be a variable message, and then that's just us inputting an object that has an ID, a text and a listing ID. Alright, so let's go ahead and create that now. So I'm going to cd into packages controller and do yarn gen types, and I'm going to go ahead and click on schema types, and now I can get those types. So I'm going to say with create message, this is going to be called create message. We don't really need a loading, so what we're going to pass is actually a mutation that the user can do. And for now, I'm not sure the best way to actually do the type for this, because this is going to be a mutation. I think I'm going to put this on pause right now and then just copy the type when we create it down here, and I'll show you what I mean by that. So here are the props. So the props that we expect this to take are actually nothing. We don't need any props. Just the children. This is what we're going to pass down. In this case, it's going to be with create message. It's this thing right here, but we haven't defined what that's going to be yet. And then we're still going to return this because this is going to be a rendered prop. Alright, so let's actually make our class now. I'm going to go ahead and call this create message. I'm going to get rid of this prop right here. I'm going to call this mutation. And this is going to be create message mutation. And then this is going to be the variables. And now instead of query, you pass in a variable called mutation. We don't need to pass any variables here. So the mutation that we're going to pass in is one we just created. Create message mutation. And now we have some stuff right here. I'm going to call it to mutate. And I need to rename the bottom tag as well. So now mutate, if I hover over, I can see what the type of this is. And I'm now going to copy that. So this is the type that the function is. And I'm going to import that. And I imported that from React Apollo. So we are going to return to the user, or to whoever's using this component, a mutation function, and it's got these. And you can see now the types match, so I can just pass that in here. And I'm going to call it mutate, or I guess we call it create message, so we can call this create message to match. And I called it mutate here. I guess we could call create message there and save one thing, but either way works. And this looks good, so now we can just wrap or render this component and then grab the mutate and call it whenever we want to. So let's go ahead and export this. Create message, and let's go ahead and build. And we can hop on over to the website now. And build was successful. We'll grab modules, listing, and we're going to say create message. I guess it's going to be inside of this page still, this message connector. So I think I'm going to actually just create a component inside of here. And this is going to be, I guess, the input bar .tsx. I'm not sure a better name for this. So input bar. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually just render this guy on this page over here. But what this guy is going to be is just an formic form that the user can type in, and then it'll create a message. So you're about to see how you can actually stack two rendered props inside of each other. It's not the prettiest thing ever, but let's go ahead and import the stuff that we need. So I'm going to import from formic, and we're going to grab the formic higher order component here. So this is going to be, and I guess I'll have the outside wrapper be create message, and that's coming from ab controller. So create message, and this is going to have create message. So now we have access to that function, that mutation that we had, and then here we have whatever we want to render. And so what I want to render here is formic, and now formic is going to be a function of its own here. So now this is how you actually have a rendered prop inside of a rendered prop. So formic, I'm going to create the form values. So that's going to be an interface, form values, and in this case it's just going to be text, which is a string. So let's add the types, nothing there, and then form values. And now let's set the initial values, which is just going to be an array, or I mean an object, with text, which is empty. And then submit, and then we can do whatever we want there. So here are going to be the form values. We can call them values, or we can just destructure it and grab the text out of it. So then here I can go ahead and call the create message mutation. So this is whenever the form is submitted. So we get the text from the field. So text is equal to text. Okay, it's not even, oh, you know what? We could have made this a little simpler, because now what I'm going to have to do is variables and then pass in the text here. So I didn't actually add any simplification to this, but that's okay. So we need the text and we need the listing ID. And oh, you know what? This is all wrapped in an object called message. So something we don't have, and let me just render a div here. That way this all can save. So the reason why I have message and then text and then listing ID is if we come back over to our create message over here, the variable that we need to pass in is something called message, and that itself is an object. So message, and then here's our object with those two values. So now text we get from the field I said, but where are we getting listing ID? Let's just take that as a prop. So I'm going to say interface props, and we'll say listing ID is a string. So when I call this component, I need to pass it in. And we're going to say this.props, grab the listing ID, and we'll use that listing ID here. And I guess let's make this async, and let's await it in case we ever want to add anything else to this form. And now, last but not least, let's go ahead and just render our field. And I'm going to wrap it in a form. And I want to grab this form from formic. So we have form, and inside of our form, I'm going to have a field, and field's coming from, okay, field's coming from formic as well. So the name of that is going to be text, and then, and then the component is going to be the input field, And that's what we've used for all of our fields. There we go. And I don't think there's anything else I need to add here. Let's go ahead and give it a try. I guess we could add a button if we want to. Button. And I'm just going to do a regular button. I'm going to say send message. And now I'm going to set the type to submit. So when the user clicks on this, it's going to submit the form or call on submit because I passed that type in. All right, so let's take a look. Cannot find module. Usually when this happens, I just Control-C and restart it. Because usually it gets this whenever it's in the middle of building. So whenever I build on the controller, it will destroy the file first. We have something that we're using, we're removing it. So when I build, we first rimwrap, which destroys the dist. So for a microsecond, there actually is not a controller. So that's what's complaining about. But then afterwards, we build it right away. So then it comes back. But sometimes the server doesn't actually check that, or it goes too fast. Okay, so I never actually rendered it on this page. So I want to render it on message controller. So here I have all the messages displaying. So after that, what I'm going to do is grab the input bar. And now I need to pass in the listing ID. And we'll just refresh. And now, okay, that's a little unproportional, but that's okay. So I'm going to say message 2. And we'll send the message. Now, the message is not going to show up here right away, because we have not added subscriptions yet. I wanted to see if the network request went off, but we can just refresh and see. Looks like it was successful. Let's send another one. We can see the message request here and it returned true. So good, I'm happy with this. What we're gonna do in the next video is we're gonna grab the subscription or start subscribing to the messages. So whenever we create one, we can see it update automatically. And before we end real quick, I want to just reset the form. So I'm going to say reset form, and we're going to say reset form. And the reason why I'm resetting the form after we create a message is because usually when you type a message like message 4, send a message, after it sends, it should clear it there. So now we have that functionality. All right, that's it for this video, guys. I'll see you tomorrow.